So given that space is such a premium in my workshop, the only way for me to work on this bike is to suspend it from the ceiling. And that keeps it up off my bench, and I can access both sides of it from there. It's not ideal. I would love to have a motorbike standing here, but I can only work with what I have right now. I need to compress this spring a little more because I want to move this spring down one notch up here on the top of the shock, but obviously I'm not man enough to compress it together and then put in these retaining pieces here. So I'm just going to find a bit of a way to pull these together without having a proper tool for doing this. And I want to get this thing rebuilt, you know, inside out eventually. But for now, I just want to get this bike as a rolling frame so I can clear out some space in my workshop. Once I got this done, it's easy for me to just pop it out again, send it away for a refurb, put it back on. Both of them are tight as that. Yeah, so like I said, I will need to kind of take this apart again and buy a bung for there and, you know, install it. I'm not sure what happened to the original one. It probably just disintegrated, but yeah. So I will have to take this apart. This is just a temporary thing to get this as a rolling frame. There's a few things I want to do to this. Although it's in very good condition, I'm actually impressed with how clean it is and how well it cleaned up, even the original sticker. But there's a few things I want to do to it, like new hose, complete rebuild, new bung, and also I want to find a new bush for the top. So it's not the same as the bottom one, and I've had a look and I can't seem to find them anywhere. They don't seem to sell them anymore for these IT490s. You can get them for the YZ490s, but supposedly they're a bit different. So yeah, I want to try and source a new bush for the top. If not, I'll make one myself and put 2 new seals in it and get this rebuilt at a later date. Just something about that big yellow shock there. It looks so mean. I don't know, it looks a lot angrier than the red shock on the YZ490. Something about this bike that I'm just really liking. Anyways, let's crack on. Now that the engine's in, swing arm is rebuilt, linkage is rebuilt, the shock is rebuilt and reassembled. I still have a few things like the hose here to replace later on and eventually get the shock rebuilt, like I said. But what I can do now is start putting in the wiring. I can't remember how this wiring came out with this bike, and I'm not sure it was even all there or intact or even in its original position anyways. But I remember there was some Yamaha cable ties that were on the frame in places which I've managed to keep. But yeah, I want to get the wiring in, the ignition coil, the CDI and everything on, and then we can start, I guess, once that's in, we can get the bike down off these hangers here and start seeing what we can do. So I've been keeping all my parts in these boxes here. But you see, I got everything for this bike. It's the rear light. I think that's the rear light. The front one is... the front one must be in one of the other boxes. Just a spare bulb, the regulator, CDI, the coil. Yeah, pretty much everything there. So I'll get all those bits bolted on. You can see the only thing that's on there right now is just the cable that comes up out with the starter. I'm using all stainless steel Allen bolts on these. I have a temporary spark plug in there for now. I need to get some new spark plugs. And the little cable broken off this regulator. I think it's a voltage regulator. The cable is pulled out at the end of the spade there, so I'll need to solder on a new connection for that also. And a bit of heat shrink over it. Yeah. There's actually not a lot of information out there for wiring one of these things. I don't know, maybe some of you guys might find it helpful if you have a similar bike and you're missing some wiring. That blue wire there is the one I need to solder the new connection onto. And a bit of heat shrink over it by the looks of it. Most of these cables are in good condition, but some of them are a bit, the insulation on them is a bit cracked and that, but that's to be expected, isn't it? Yeah, these must be the for the kill switch. Then I need to figure out what these two are for. So this cable that runs along the frame here down to the back of the bike is obviously for the tail light, but there's two connections in that, and then the tail light itself here that has three connections, but one of them quite clearly hasn't been used in a while, and that's the yellow one. You can see the connection on it if it will focus. So there's two cables coming to the back of the frame here, a blue and black. There's a blue and black on this for the tail light, and a yellow one that seemed to be obsolete. Now I'm not sure if it was obsolete originally, so I may find out for sure. So that leaves the yellow cable for the tail light, and these two cables here. Not these two, those two cables. I might see if I can find a little bit of a wiring diagram somewhere, or else eliminate cables as we go. The more I connect, the more I see where everything goes. So we'll find those three cables missing so far, and I think that's pretty much wiring sorted. And that's pretty much the wiring in place at least. Probably should have put this strap on first. So I want to install the rear mud flap here next. Now I have the original one here. This is it on the left. It's not in the best condition. There's a crack in the center of it here, and also the rubber flap at the bottom is also split. So I was buying a few parts from a supplier, and he also had one of these flaps, so I bought it from him, you know, because this one looked like it was in a fair bit better condition, to be honest. But you know, it's obviously not perfect. It needs a good cleanup, but it is a lot better than the one I had originally. There's no cracks in it anywhere, and the only broken piece I can see is this little rubber piece up here, which I'd imagine is broken on pretty much every IT490. So I'll have a look to see if I can get a new one. If I can, I will. Now that the wiring is connected, the carburetor is connected, the decompression valve is connected, pretty much all that's left to do is, you know, clean up, stick an air filter in it, clean up a little bit of wiring so it's kind of out with the way, stick a back wheel on it, stick the front forks on it, stick the front tyre on it, and at least you could sit on this bike, or at least make it a rolling frame. I'm kind of tempted to take this thing down off its hangers right now and see if I can get this thing to fire up. Maybe nick the wheels off the YZ490 and see what we can do. So guys, there you have it. She fired up pretty quick to my surprise. But everything seems to be working fine in it. Now, I didn't want to leave it running for too long because there was no transmission fluid in it. And the reason for that is, I had some issues with this bike before. When I bought this bike originally, it came with a flywheel, a CDI, an ignition coil, a starter plate, everything you would expect for it to run. But I had some problems when I tried to start it for the first time. It turns out it was the wrong flywheel for this bike. It was from a YZ490. And what happened is, when I kickstarted it, the engine backfired, ran in the opposite direction, destroyed the idle gear for the kickstart mechanism, and broke the case.
So after repairing that, I put it all back together, ordered a new flywheel for an IT490. They look pretty much identical, by the way, so don't get caught out like I did. So once I put the new flywheel on, I didn't want to put transmission fluid in it, just in case anything went wrong again and I had to take the engine out again to do another repair. It's easy to repair aluminium when it's clean and not covered in oil. So now that I'm happy with everything, it's now the next day. I ran it on a very low two-stroke mix last night, so I think I was running 32 to 1. Now, today, it's the next day, I'm going to run it on 40 to 1. So I've done that just for the first few heat cycles on it. So I've already done a few heat cycles. Next day, it's now 40 to 1, and I'll fire it up for you guys to hear it. Oh, by the way, you can see there, it's a bit of a rat rod at the moment. You see that silencer on the back there? It's just stuck on there for now, just so I can keep it as quiet as possible. My neighbours hate me enough as it is. But anyways, we'll fire it up. It's good enough for now while I'm waiting for proper parts to come.
Oh, man. I can't say how relieved I am to have this thing running after so long. It's been sitting in here just trying to find parts for it and just not really making any progress in general. So I'm very, very happy to see that bike up and running. But I guess again it's going to come to a mini standstill until I get more parts for it. Like I said, with the wheels and spokes and that kind of stuff and new tanks and plastics. But it's pretty much just bolt-on bits from here on out. There's no major work to be done to this bike. You could kind of just fix it up as it is now and ride it, and you could have just as much fun on it. But I want to clean it up and get it looking half decent. But I think until then, guys, that's pretty much it for this video. And thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you in the next video. Peace out.